Once again, Chris England, Aseroth and Fire Emblem, and I'm finally deciding to cover the CYL 6 units in total. So this banner was very, very controversial in terms of both the characters, but more specifically the costumes. So anyways, let's get started with the Sublime Lights. Byleth. So female Byleth, the second place winner of the women's division. Unfortunately, this is the third year in a row that Three Houses has continued its reign over the CYL voting gauntlets. As much as I like the character design, I can't help but think that this spot could have been better used for a Thracia unit, especially since Thracia is still waiting for its slot. You could also argue TMS, but TMS hasn't been done since, what is it, year 2 or 3? But let's see. For her Ray form, which features Sothis Regalia, we have her drawn by Kimihiko Fujisaka, and her voice actress is Shizuka Itou. So I covered Miss Itou during the Thief banner, but just to recover, she is Ake no Himejima from High School D&D. We have Akasha from Dragalia Lost. We have Luvia from the Fate series. We have Mako Shiraki from the Prison School. And as she also covers her colorless tome flyer. So now she is only, like, I believe going back to Celica, she is only missing one color of tome, and she will have every single one of them. Except in this case, it's green and not blue, since she already had her blue as her legendary form. In her kit, we actually have two brand new skills specifically. We start with, once again, attack speed catch 4. Yeah, I'll admit that I'm getting very tired of seeing this specific catch everywhere. I really wish that we had more attack defense catches, or even attack res catch would even be a better choice. But we also have speed res hold, so this is the evolved form of the range skills. And then for our brand new B skill, we have speed preempt. During battle, the opponent's speed gets -4. And then if she is facing off again, if a bow, dagger, tome, or staff user initiates battle and her speed is higher than her foes, she attacks first. So this is a speed-based vantage skill, speed-based range 2 vantage skill. And then we also have her Divine Pulse. So it's going to be the damage gets buffed by 25% of her own speed. The next foe's attack is has a damage reduction by 75%. And then afterwards, the next attack that she does is buffed by 20% of her speed again. So it's a layered special, meaning, and at a 2 countdown cost makes it very, very easy for her to hit that number. But what makes it even easier to hit is the inner Wellspring weapon. We have the cooldown count -1, changing that 2 on her Divine Pulse to a 1. At the start of turn, if there is a ally within 2 spaces of unit, she gets null follow-up for the 1 turn, and if her count is at maximum, she -1. So already she's at 1 cooldown count at the start, but she also has inside of her weapon null follow-up and times pulse. And then when she initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, she gets Spectrum +5 during the battle. And then after the battle, if she activated her special, she gets a -1 cooldown count -1 after that battle. So she's going to be hitting that special cooldown, special every single match, every single round. And she's going to be also facing the enemies that are based around the range 2. As much as I would like to keep this kit, seeing this skill, which is very specific in terms of what it's offering, I personally think that instead of the catch, they should have done ideal instead. Like even a speed res ideal would have been better. Just because all of her skill is based around that speed. Her weapon wants high speed. The catch skill in and of itself is not bad, but it's not aiming for her own HP or her own bonus. And since she is very easily able to put a bonus on herself, having catch, which focuses on putting penalties on foes or having their HP at 100, means that this skill may not activate as much as the ideal skill would. Next, for the second place in the men's division, we have Enduring Legacy. We have Seliph. Now, Seliph once again continues his use of swords as a sword cavalry unit. Once again, we have the illustration done by Sachiko Wada, who has done one character at least in every single CYL, so hopefully this does continue. We have the voice acted by Yuma Uchida. So for this one specifically, we have Iori Kitahara, who was from Grand Blue. We have Kawaki from Boruto. And then let's see. I did make some notes, but unfortunately I forgot to remember the actual anime series. But Ash Lynx, Linus, and Rodrigo, I believe those are from Grand Blue Fantasy. And then Karo William and Karu Sakuraba, I believe those might actually be from either the same or different. I really don't quite remember off the top of my head, unfortunately. So Seliph is this time decked out in his father's cloak and cravat, or in general his clothing. But I guess for me, I'm a little bit disappointed in the choice. I did definitely think that Seliph would have made a better green tome unit to honor his mother Deirdre, especially since I see absolutely no resemblance to Deirdre's clothing in this at all. It's just Sigurd's clothing. And his kit is also very similar to his father's kit in general. We have Luna and then Lull Speed Defense 3. We also have a brand new A skill, Attack Speed Clash 4. When he attacks, if it's either him attacking or the foe attacking, he gains a bonus based on the number of spaces moved, the distance between how far he moved, plus with an attack speed plus 6, and that number with a maximum of 4. And then if that number is 2 or more, any penalties to his attack and speed are nullified. So one of the things that this skill doesn't really mention is that it doesn't include that 4 is more just for the straight lines. If you're moving like around a unit to a maximum, it will only count the number of spaces in between from where you started to where you ended up, or where the foe started to where they ended up. So this skill is actually a little bit harder to use than it leads on. It is very powerful of a skill, but it is a little bit harder to work with. We also have a linking skill. Let's see, I believe it is Hair to Light. At the start of turn, if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, he gets attack speed plus 6 and gets an additional movement. So this is copying his legendary Sigurd's effect, where he's getting the bonus movement as well as a buff to stats. Now, note that this one will not stack. And one other thing is that he also gets the null follow-up. We have a lot of no follow-up effects, and this is a cavalry unit who's gaining it, as well as the flyer that we just had. But we can't have Sigurd and Seliph without their Tearfling. This one is the Holy Tide Tearfling. As a cavalry unit, he has access to Canto 2, and as well we have a cooldown count -1. We copy over what the Clash skill did, where when he attacks, if he's whether he initiates or the foe initiates, based on the number of spaces between where he was and where he is now, he gets attack spectrum +5, and then the number of spaces moved, and then he deal. Let's see, his damage is increased by x times the foe's defense times 10%. Where the circle is at his maximum movement of 4, and this is a damage buff. So in other words, his kit is very, very simplistic, very, very well done. And then also he has a bonus where if he is attacking from a space that is different from where he started, and at the start of battle, if his HP is 25% or greater, and it would be a attack that does 2 or more damage as a fatal attack, he remains with 1 HP. So he actually has a miracle, as the Tierflings all have done with all the refines, with the Divine Tierflings refine, as well as the original Tierflings refine. Now, one thing that will be noted is that this skill is a lot like the attack speed clash, where it's based on the difference in terms of spaces that you were before. So this is a very basic unit. It's very good for people who don't actually have a legendary secret. And now we rate on to the #1 of the division, as well as the most controversial choice in terms of art. We have the Fated Divinity. Tiki! Tiki now becomes a green dragon infantry. So, just to recap, this is Tiki's 3rd version after waiting for close to 5 years. YIS did decide not to put her up in any further choices. My guess is they just prefer young Tiki, as we can see in her regalia being focused on young Tiki's original look. The green, the pink tunic, the red long bow, and the dancer-like veil straps. But this is not young Tiki. This is older, awakening Tiki. I do not blame the illustrator Peneko R at all. They simply had a job to do, and they did it absolutely beautifully. And then one other thing is that we have the superb voice acting of Ikue Ootani. Miss Ootani is very well known for 2 specific roles. The first one that I probably more people know than in general is Tony Chopper from One Piece. But the most famous one, in fact, the only one that she continues in every single dub, is the Pokemon mascot Pikachu. We also have Apple Bloom from My Little Pony. We have young Konohamaru. And then we have Morgana from Persona 5 as some smaller roles. So as her skill, she actually does have more defensive. She starts with Glimmer and Defense Res Menace. She also has a brand new A skill in the form of Attack Res Finish, I believe it was. If she's within 3 spaces of an ally, she gets attack res +7, and if she can activate her... Let's see. If she can activate her special before battle, or within battle she's able to activate it, she deals +5 damage without ignoring damage that's dealt by a area effect, and then if she deals damage, she recovers 7 HP. So this is a very special focused unit. She is going to be dealing more damage. She's going to be healing damage. So she is somewhat like a lot of the recent armor units in Fallen Rhea and Fallen Edelgard that we've gotten. And then for her exclusive beast skill, we have New Divinity. So at the start of battle, if her HP is at least 25% or greater, during that battle, the opponent takes a attack res debuff of 5, and if her resistance is higher than her foes, she takes damage from both AoE specials and any damage from the battle by she reduces that damage by the difference in resistance times 4% with a maximum of 40%. So we have something similar to Dragon Wall. However, there is a bonus for her where if she has at the start of battle, if she has at least 40% HP, the opponent gets a denied follow-up. But we have her breath. So we have remote breath. She continues on the dragon effectiveness and adaptive damage, as well as the cooldown count -1. And then her effect is kind of a duplicated skill, but it's very, very good for what she has. If she's within 3 spaces of an ally, during battle, she gets Spectrum +5, guaranteed follow-up. And then if she has a attack type special equipped, during battle, before the first attack, she gets cooldown count -1. The same thing will happen. So for the foe, and with the same skill, if her foe has a attack type of special and her resistance is at least 5 points higher than the foe's resistance, during that battle, before the foe's first attack, she gives the foe +1 to their count. So we have skills that ease her. She already has a -1 on her cooldown, so 1 point. She can activate it immediately as long as she's within 3 spaces of an ally. If her special is raring and ready to go either before or during battle, she deals 5 additional damage and recovers 7 damage if she actually attacks, and she has damage reduction with also a deny follow-up. Now, in general, I would say that now for this unit, I would actually say that she is very, very complete in terms of what she can offer. I really would only think that if you were going to change the menace, instead what would be better is attack res menace, just to make it so that she takes even less damage. Because the defense aspect of this one isn't really important unless you're facing high resistance, low defense mages. There's also the bonus of having the distant counter dragon seal released in the last Tempest trial that you can equip through her, meaning that she can now deal with range 2 units much easier.
みんなのため。
And now we have the winner of the men's division. We have Faded Honor.
どこであろうと人々のために。
We have Chrom finally getting a lance version of himself with a lance cavalry. I will admit that I am a little bit saddened by the fact that they did give him a lance instead of giving him a staff to make him more like his sister Emerin. But, of course, that is open to debate. A lance for him is very good, especially with the skills that he has. So we, of course, have the Fire Emblem Awakenings artist, Especial Yusuke Kozaki, and we have Tomokazu Sugita voicing him. Once again, so Mr. Sugita has been doing many very well done roles. We have Yusuke Kitagawa as Persona 5 for Persona 5's Fox. In fact, I did actually make this as a Chrom cosplaying as Fox as a Persona 5 member. We have Etsuya Eizan from Food Wars. We have Joseph Joestar, the second in the JoJo's from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And probably the best well-known one that I know of is Gintoki Sagata from the Gintama series. Oddly enough, I do actually want to see what would happen if we actually did have that kind of Gintama role, because we do have enough characters that have the Japanese voice actors matching certain characters. All we're missing is TMS's Toma.
そうだろう姉さん
And once again, he does have a very good kit. Starting from the A skill, we have Surge Sparrow. Oddly enough, he does not actually come with a special, so that needs to be filled in order to actively take advantage of this skill. We also have Speed Defense Near Trace. We have a brand new C skill. Yay! We have Infantry Speed Tactic. So at the start of turn, if unit is with any allies within 2 spaces get speed +6 for the turn. And then but this only works if you have 2 or less different movement types on your team. Then for the units that are affected by this, if they are infantry, they gain null follow-up. So instead of giving himself null follow-up, he gives other units null follow-up. Then we also have a brand new assist skill, and one of the rare types that's going to be a evolution of one of them. We have a Fate Changed. Normally what we would have gotten is to change Fate from his originals, from his either Valentine or from his legendary. So this is a reposition. He gains an additional action afterwards. And then he gets, both him and his bonus partner get isolation. Then any bonuses that the target has, he doubles on himself. So he's doubling his own bonuses as well. Now the isolation in and of itself says that he can't be the target nor use any kind of special again. So he can't just like run around the battlefield constantly using this, constantly gaining everything. But this also means that if he's using the skill with another infantry unit, he will gain that null follow-up effect. And then his weapon, the Geodwafil, this one gives armor effective and cooldown count -1. So I'm pretty sure every single one of them had some level of that. If he initiates battle, or is battling within 2 spaces of an ally, he gets Spectrum +5. And then he gets an additional buff equal to the number of bonuses and penalties ×2. And he reduces the damage taken by a foe's first attack by 40%. As well, if he has a bonus attached to him during battle, he gets cooldown count +1 per attack. Woof, that's a mouthful. So, weirdly enough, he does not come with his base form's Aether, but he does come with the Aether adjacent Surge Sparrow. So one of the big things is that he's going to be a very, very big team player unit. He's going to aim to try and attempt to get as many bonuses as he can. If you can get bonus doubler, so I know that there's options of bonus doubler and movement +1 from Astrid's bow. You can get null follow-up and dodge from young Mia. So that's 4 right there, just for 2 units. So the biggest thing about him is his weakness is, of course, going to be the fact that he's not going to do as well on his own in general. So his effectiveness is going to go down if he's the only unit. He can still do damage when he attacks, but he won't be able to have second movements. He won't be able to get null follow-up from an ally. And the only thing that he'll be able to do is really just do damage from his special. That doesn't mean that he's a poor unit choice in and of himself, but it does mean that he's open to additions. Then we continue with the spark, but instead of being able to do it only once, you can do it once per hero, once per 40 summons. So in a total of 160 summons, if you summon all the way through there, you will get one of each unit guaranteed. And then this banner, since it is a CYL banner, you are also given one free, regardless of how many pulls you do. So you can easily get a +1 of any of these, of whatever one of these, guaranteed within 160, I guess you could say 165 summons. So one of the disadvantages of this one is that the fact is that you are open up. And one thing I would like to add in is that for the GHB for this round, we are getting Jeralt. So Jeralt is the Kite, the Blade Breaker. We have him drawn by Nishiki Areku, and then his voice actor is Akio Otsuka. So some of the easiest ones to note for him are going to be Wamu from JoJo. So it's Jeralt versus Chrom. We have Blackbeard and Iskandar the Terrible from Fate Grand Order. We have All for One for My Hero Academia. And then for a much older series, we have Shunsui Kyoraku, the captain of the seventh squad from Bleach. So what he has is his Blade Breaker's Lance. If I remember correctly, if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, he gives attacks defense -6 and panic to the unit that has the highest attack defense total. And he also gets a guaranteed follow-up. So he's very similar to Duessel. He also comes with Dragon Fang. He comes with the Distant Guard 3 as his 4-star. And then we finally get another unit that can use Attack Defense Catch 3. Granted, he only gets it as a 5-star as opposed to being a 4-star skill, which would have made it a lot better. I know that a lot of people were excited about Jeralt. I can't say that I'm exceedingly excited because I never played Three Houses, and so I know the story. I know the value that he has towards the story, but by the same token, I feel like he could have been given that Attack Defense Catch 3 as the 4-star instead of the Distant Guard. So in terms of value, I think in general for basics, I'd say that Sigurd is the best out of the kit because his weapon doesn't have any ally requirements. It's just movement requirements. He has movement-based buffs. Lull in general is a really good basic skill, and his C skill just gives him an extra movement. So in terms of absolute value, I would say that he is actively one of the highest in terms of basic value for newer players. However, I would not say that he's good for fodder. In general, so the only skill that's brand new is attack speed clash. And what I would definitely say about this skill is that if you transfer it to legendary Sigurd, there is the option of having that as another unit that can use it. But lull speed defense, it comes on other units. It's not a very exclusive skill. Once again, the only problem that we have is since this is a brand new skill and we don't have any 3s, you would have to transfer that entire skill. So it's a 5-star going for 1 skill again. One other thing to note is that his C skill is non-transferable as well. In terms of probably second place would be Chrom. Chrom is definitely much more powerful, but he does have more of a setup requirement in general. His weapon gives him gives him stat buffs based on the number of bonuses and the number of penalties he has. But this also means that you actually want to give him bonuses or have him be the target of penalties. He also has a damage reduction and a bonus to his cooldown count, as well as a heal based on his cooldown count. Now note that he does not have an actual special, which does not, while it does not, it is kind of weird. It does mean that you actually do have to add something to his kit. Once again, we have Surge Sparrow. So Surge Sparrow is actually relatively easy to pass on to other units, as well as Infantry Speed Tactic. Both of these have availability in terms of their speed tactic. This one is a little bit more valuable because there are seasonals that have this as at tier 3 at 4-star. We also have him as able to get another turn. So what I would say is that Chrom is a little bit harder to use than Seliph, but he's got much more power behind him. In terms of the last two, I would tie them together. Both in terms of Byleth's kit, since she has a very specific niche. She's very focused on dealing with range 2 units, in that she has a speed, and then speed buff, and then speed based skill, and then speed based. So everything in her kit is speed based. I will say that I would not actually put the attack speed catch in here. Instead, if you really wanted to make her a little bit more tanky, they could have done Swift Stance 3, which originally came on Ronan. So if she's attacked, she gets speed res +6, and then she debuffs the foe. The other option is also to give her Mirror Stance, because she is a very counter-focused unit. Now, another thing to note is that she's also going to be because of that niche, she's going to have a harder time being a enemy phase unit that can deal with range 1. She very likely will not be able to survive that kind of thing, even because her skills are all based around damage being reduced or damage dealt during the battle. Now, I will not say that she is a bad unit per se. But I do think that the attack speed catch is starting to become attack speed push. Then we have also, in terms of this design, the Regalia, while I do agree that I like it, I also think that it feels a little bit too safe. Like they're trying to be something specific. But let's go ahead and move on to the most controversial choice that they had, Tiki. Now, there were a lot of people outcrying that Tiki should not have been dressed up in her young version, because that's essentially saying they didn't want to give it to her adult version. They wanted to have her young version get the Brave Alt. So this is them saying, we don't care about adult Tiki. We want old Tiki. So even though adult Tiki won, young Tiki will still win in our hearts. But I think there's a little bit more depth to this costume choice. Number one is this opens the door for the ascended and legendary or mythic form that Tiki will have. One of the easiest things that people suggested is giving her Bantu's robe, and that can be her ascended form. But I think the Bantu robe fits better with the young Tiki than the old Tiki. I think old Tiki would actually, or awakening Tiki is probably the better way of saying it, would fit better as Goto, as opposed to the other one. And then the Naga clothing is better fit for her mythic form. But people have actually also pointed out that Cypher has a card like this. But I would like to point out that Awakening actually did have her dressing up as a younger form. So if you want to quote me on this, go ahead. I don't personally remember which. I feel like I remember it being Seiri and Tiki B support, where Tiki was paraded around town wearing her original clothes. But in this case, the original clothes were too small. So for me, I see that it's actually the fact that she got the clothes to either fit, or they are her original clothes and they just had to redo the bindings. I don't think of it as a bad thing. In fact, I very much like the artwork. I'm personally happy that Tiki won. I'm hoping that we see more of her. I want to see maybe like a bridal adult Tiki, or more summer, maybe like a summer yukata version. That would actually be very, very open. The awakening and mythic options are still open to having her evolve in terms of those. Awakening being her taking over in the Naga bloodline, and the ascended version being her wearing Goto's robe, or maybe even the ascended being her wielding falchion. The main thing that I want people to take away from this costume is that it still leaves options. And while it may seem like it's doing a disservice to adult Tiki, keep in mind that this allows IS to keep their options open. I don't personally think of it being necessarily a tribute to young Tiki, but just allowing her design to stay open. Now, as for Tiki's kit, she is very, very set. The only thing I would change is this from defense res to attack res. But all in all, her skill set is very good. Probably as a minor thing on my end, since you do want to keep her for her B skill, you want to keep her at a specific point of HP. Changing this out to noontime while keeping the cooldown count low definitely would help. But in general, I think her focus point is very specific. Now, one of the hard parts about her is that she is a dragon, and there is a very large dragon killer meta going on. There's also a lot of units that are nullifying skills that reduce damage. So this would mean that B skill would be a lot harder to work with. The opponent gets denied, their follow-up denied, is also something that people have been ignoring, especially since every single other unit actually has no follow-up, or gives no follow-up, or can copy over no follow-up. But the main thing is that she's very focused on doing specials. So she is going to have actually a very hard time also dealing with Byleth's Brave form, just because of that constant cooldown count -1. So to summarize this one, in terms of pulls, I'd say that Seliph is a good choice for beginners who are just barely starting the game. Chrom is good for people who have a decent number of units. And then both Byleth and Tiki are there for more experienced players who know how to get around. Tiki is there for being a dark horse for the current meta. Byleth is there for a very specific niche. So that is it for this banner. I will see you in another video. Thank you very much for watching.